Hey everyone, and welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to be learning English with a fun and practical situation. Going to the grocery store, we'll break down a simple conversation, learn some really useful phrases that you can use, and by the end, you'll feel way more confident using English the next time you go shopping.
Yeah, we'll be using easy words and phrases today so you can easily understand and use them in your own conversations.
That's exactly right. Think of it as your shortcut to speaking English in the supermarket. So to get us started, we're going to listen to a short dialogue between two friends, Alex and Ella, as they shop for groceries.
It's going to be a great way to hear how these phrases are used in a real conversation.
Okay, let's meet Alex and Ella. Hey, Ella, how's it going?
Hi, Alex. How are you today?
I'm doing well. What are you up to?
I'm here for some groceries. I love this store.
Me too.
It has really reasonable prices for fresh produce.
Yeah, I know. I always stock up on vegetables here.
Do you know where I can find the pasta aisle?
Yeah, it's in aisle 3, next to the canned goods.
Oh, the shelves are nearly empty. There must be a shortage of pasta.
Actually, I think they're restocking right now. Look at those boxes over there.
Oh, great. I need to get some ingredient for my homemade sauce, too.
Oh, the fresh herbs are on special offer today.
Perfect. Thanks for the tip, Alex.
No problem. See you around, Ella.
Bye, Alex.
All right. Wasn't that a fun little chat?
Definitely. And even in that short conversation, we can find so many useful phrases that you can use at the grocery store.
Okay. Let's start by looking at some key words and expressions from the dialogue. You ready to dive in?
Absolutely. Let's break them down one by one.
First up, we have reasonable prices. Ella used this phrase. To describe the store's prices, what does reasonable mean in this context?
Reasonable means the price is fair. It's not too high, it's a good price.
So if you go to a store and you think the prices are good, you could say, this store has really reasonable prices.
Exactly. It's a great way to express your satisfaction with the prices and maybe even start a conversation with someone.
Right. Next, we have stock up. Alex mentioned that he likes to stock up on vegetables at this store. What does it mean to stock up on something?
To stock up means to buy a lot of something. Maybe you buy a lot because the price is good, or maybe you need to have many for later.
Yeah, I love to stock up on snacks when they're on sale.
Me too. It's always a good idea to stock up on things that you use often, especially if you find a good deal.
Okay, so we've got reasonable prices and stock up. Next, Ella asks Alex, do you know where I can find the pasta aisle? Now, this is a super useful question to know when you're at the grocery store.
Absolutely. This question is perfect for when you can't find something.
Right, and you can easily change the item you're looking for. For example, do you know where I can find the milk? Or, do you know where I can find the cereal?
It's a simple question, but it can be a lifesaver. In the grocery store, you'll never be lost again.
And remember, asking questions is a great way to practice your English.
Exactly. Don't be shy to ask for help if you need it now. Let's move on to the next phrase.
Sure. Ella noticed the pasta shelves were nearly empty and thought there might be a shortage of pasta. Can you explain these words?
Nearly empty means almost all the items are gone from the shelf. Shortage means there's not enough of something for everyone who wants it.
Like when there's a shortage of toilet paper during a snowstorm. Everyone rushes to buy it, and then there's none left.
Exactly. So nearly empty describes the shelves, and shortage explains why the shelves are nearly empty.
Okay, got it. Now, what about the word restocking? Alex said that the store workers are restocking the shelves.
Restocking means they are putting more items on the shelf. They are filling it up again.
Ah, so restocking is the opposite of nearly empty.
Exactly. It's the solution to a shortage.
Okay, so we've got nearly empty, shortage, and restocking. Just a few more words to go. Ella was excited to hear that the fresh herbs were on special offer. What does that mean?
A special offer means there is a discount. The price is lower than usual. It's a great opportunity to save some money.
Who doesn't love a good deal, right? Especially on fresh herbs.
Exactly. So we've covered a lot of useful phrases from this short dialogue. Let's go back and repeat some of the key ones just to make sure they stick in your memory.
That's a great idea. Repetition is key when learning a new language.
Absolutely. So let's start with the first one. Repeat after me. This store has really reasonable prices.
This store has really reasonable prices.
Perfect. Now try this one. Do you know where I can find the pasta aisle?
Do you know where I can find the pasta aisle?
Excellent. Now let's practice. The shelves are nearly empty.
The shelves are nearly empty.
Great. And one more time. They're restocking right now.
They're restocking right now.
Amazing. See? You're already getting the hang of it.
I feel like I could walk into a grocery store right now and confidently use these phrases. But you know what? I think it's time to take a closer look at these phrases and see how we can use them in different situations. What do you say?
I'm all for that. There's so much more we can explore. Stay tuned.
And don't forget, liking this episode and subscribing to the deep dive helps us create more content like this for you. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Before we took a closer look, we were practicing some common grocery store phrases. I'm curious, did any of those phrases stand out to you?
Definitely. I really like how Ella asked for help finding the pasta. She said, "Do you know where I can find the pasta aisle?" It sounds so polite and natural.
That's a great observation. In many English-speaking cultures, it's considered polite to use phrases like, do you know? Or, could you tell me? When asking for help. Especially in a store, it shows respect for the person you're asking.
That makes sense. It's like you're acknowledging that they might have the answer instead of just demanding information.
Exactly, and it often leads to a more pleasant interaction. It's a small detail, but it can make a big difference in how people perceive you.
Yeah, I've noticed that. People often start conversations in stores by commenting on the prices, like Ella did when she said, "This store has really reasonable prices."
That's a great point. Commenting on prices can be a friendly way to start a conversation, especially if you're in a new place or don't know the other person well.
It's like you're finding common ground and sharing a positive observation.
Exactly. It's a subtle way to build rapport and connect with people.
Yeah, and I've even noticed that. Sometimes people will complain about the high prices as a way to start a conversation.
That's true. Complaining about prices, even lightheartedly, can be a way to bond with others.
It's like you're hearing a college experience.
Right. And it can even lead to interesting conversations about the economy, inflation, or even just the cost of living in different places.
Oh, that's interesting. Speaking of different places, I'm curious, do you think the way people ask for help or comment on prices varies in different English-speaking cultures?
That's a great question, and the answer is absolutely yes. For example, in some cultures, it's common to be very direct when asking for help. Where is the milk? Would be perfectly acceptable.
But in other cultures, that might be considered rude.
Right, in those cultures, it's important to use more indirect language, like, excuse me, could you please tell me where I can find the milk?
So even though we're learning these phrases for the grocery store, it's important to be aware of the cultural context and adjust our language accordingly.
Exactly. Language is so much more than just words and grammar. It's about understanding the cultural nuances and using language in a way that is appropriate and respectful.
Yeah. I remember feeling a little lost when I first started going to grocery stores. In a new country, it wasn't just the language, but also the layout of the store, the different products, and even the way people interacted with each other.
That's totally understandable. Grocery stores can be a microcosm of a culture. They reflect the local cuisine, shopping habits, and social norms.
Yeah, I remember being surprised by how much bigger grocery stores were. In some countries,
Yes, and the variety of products can be overwhelming. In some countries, you might find entire aisles dedicated to specific types of food or ingredients that you've never even heard of before.
it's like a whole new world to explore.
And don't forget about the cultural differences and how people queue or wait their turn at the checkout.
Oh, yes. In some cultures, people form orderly lines, while in others, it might seem more chaotic.
Exactly. It's all part of the cultural experience.
Going back to the dialogue, there was another phrase that stood out to me. The shelves are nearly empty. This is a phrase you might hear or need to use if a store is very busy. or if there are supply chain issues.
Absolutely. It's a way to describe a situation where the demand for a product is higher than the supply.
It's like what happened during the pandemic when everyone was panic buying toilet paper and hand sanitizer. Suddenly, the shelves were nearly empty everywhere.
Right, and that can happen with any product for different reasons. Maybe there's a problem with transportation, a natural disaster, or simply a surge in demand due to a popular trend.
It's fascinating to think about all the factors that can affect the availability of products in a grocery store.
Definitely, it's a complex system that involves global trade, logistics, and even consumer psychology.
It's a good reminder that something as simple as going to the grocery store can be connected to so many bigger issues.
Right, it's a microcosm of the world.
So we've talked about politeness, cultural differences, and even global supply chains. It's amazing how much we can learn from a simple grocery store conversation.
It really is, and we're not done yet. There's still more to explore and practice. Let's take another look at those key phrases.
Great idea. Repetition helps these phrases stick in our minds.
Absolutely. Let's start with, do you know where I can find? Repeat after me. Do you know where I can find the bread?
Do you know where I can find the bread?
Perfect. Now try. Do you know where I can find the cheese?
Do you know where I can find the cheese?
Excellent. Now let's practice. This store has really reasonable prices.
This store has really reasonable prices.
And one more time. Really emphasize the word reasonable. This store has really reasonable prices.
This store has really reasonable prices.
Fantastic. Remember, using a little emphasis can make your meaning even clearer.
I'm feeling so much more confident already, but before we wrap things up, I'd love to hear some tips on how to remember these phrases.
I've got you covered. We've got some fun memory tricks coming up in our final segment.
Perfect. And remember, liking this episode and subscribing to the Deep Dive helps us make more helpful content just like this. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've been on quite a journey through the aisles of grocery store English, haven't we?
We have. We've covered so many useful phrases, talked about cultural nuances, and even touched on global supply chains.
It's amazing how much there is to learn from a simple trip to the supermarket. But now I'm really excited to hear your tips on how to actually remember all these fantastic phrases.
Absolutely. You know, it's one thing to hear these phrases, but it's another to actually use them confidently in real life. So let's talk about some memory tricks. One of my favorites is using visualization.
Ooh, I love visualizations. It's like creating a little movie in your mind. Exactly. For example, when I hear the phrase stock up, I picture a squirrel gathering nuts for the winter. They're stocking up on their food supply.
That's so cute. And it makes sense. Squirrels are known for stocking up.
Right. Or for reasonable prices. I imagine a price tag with a big smiley face on it because it makes me happy to find a good deal.
I love that. It's like the price tag is approving of the price.
Exactly. The sillier or more memorable the image, the better it will stick in your mind.
You know, another trick I use is to connect new phrases to personal experiences. Like, I remember one time I was at a grocery store in a foreign country, and I desperately needed to find the restrooms. I was so nervous to ask, but I finally worked up the courage to say, "Do you know where I can find the restrooms?"
And did you find them?
I did. And the person who helped me was so kind. It was a small interaction, but it really boosted my confidence.
That's a great example. Connecting new phrases to real-life experiences, even small ones, can make them much more meaningful and memorable.
It's like you're creating a story around the phrase. And our brains love stories.
Absolutely. And speaking of stories, another tip is to practice these phrases in different contexts. Don't just limit yourself to the grocery store.
That's a good point. Like, I could use the phrase, "Do you know where I can find?" at a library, a museum, or even a train station.
Exactly. The more you practice using these phrases in different situations, the more natural they will become. You'll be surprised at how versatile they can be.
And it's not just about asking questions. You can also practice using phrases like reasonable prices and stock up in everyday conversations.
Absolutely. You could say, I need to stock up on coffee for the week, or I found some really reasonable prices on clothes at the mall.
It's all about incorporating these phrases into your daily life so they become second nature.
Exactly. And don't worry if you make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. when they're learning a new language.
That's true. In fact, mistakes are a sign that you're learning and growing.
Absolutely. The most important thing is to keep practicing and to have fun with it. Don't be afraid to experiment with different phrases and see what works for you.
I love that. Learning English should be an enjoyable experience, not a chore.
Right. So keep exploring, keep practicing, and most importantly, keep having fun.
This has been such an insightful deep dive into grocery store English. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and those helpful memory tricks.
It's been a pleasure. I hope our listeners feel more confident and equipped to navigate the grocery store and beyond in English.
And remember, liking this episode and subscribing to the deep dive helps us create more helpful content like this. See you next time for another exciting deep dive adventure.
Happy learning, everyone.
Thanks for joining the conversation here at Kaz English. We hope you found it fun and informative. Don't forget to check out kazapp.uk. That's kazapp.uk for more tips, resources, and interactive practice. Keep exploring, keep chatting, and we'll catch up with you again soon.